my gosh, you guys, what are you doing in my living room? Oh my gosh, such intruders. Ooh. Well, since you're here, you might as well just talk, okay? Now, today we're going to talk about how to renew your EMT license. Now, there's two important components. There's renewing your NREMT and also renewing your state license. So we're just going to talk about all that today. I mean, since you're already here unexpectedly, let's just talk, okay? First thing we're going to talk about is renewing your NREMT. Now, the NREMT, if you don't know, is basically the organization that sets the standards for all EMTs, paramedics, first responders, basically all EMS providers, just making sure that everyone's on the same page across the U.S. and basically everyone has that same standard. So if I go to Texas, they're going to be learning the same things, same materials, all that. Okay, so first, before you become an EMT, you have to pass the NREMT exam, and they make that exam, and once you pass it, it's saying that you are qualified to become an EMT. Now, after that, you can decide whether you want to keep up with your NREMT recertification or not, and it really just depends on your state. So in Florida, for example, you have to pass the NREMT the first time to become certified, but after that, you don't have to keep up with the NREMT certification. So in my case, I decided to not renew mine in March. March was the deadline, I think March 1st or something like that. I didn't renew mine because I want to be in school soon and I know I won't be working for a while, so I didn't think it was important for me to keep up with it. And also, I don't plan on moving. So if you plan on moving, you may want to keep up with your NREMT just in case the state that you're moving to requires it, because some states do require that you have your NREMT at all times. So I'm going to put the links below so that you can look up the individual requirements for your state. Now, if you work for an EMS agency, so if you work for an ambulance company or the fire department or something like that, they do require you a lot of times to keep up with your national certification. And so you really have to decide if you want to keep up with this or not. But the NREMT is not a license to practice. So just because you have your NREMT does not mean that you can do patient care. You have to get the second thing that I'm going to talk about, which is your state license. But I do also want to mention that with the NREMT, there are certain requirements that certain CEUs or continuing education that you are required to have before you can renew that, and you have to pay a fee. I forgot how much it was. I'll put the link below, and I'll have. So guys, don't forget to go to my website if you want this information, because I know sometimes probably I ramble too much, or maybe you're at work or in school or whatever and you just want to read a quick article. I try to make an article for every video that I do that's like a how-to video, so you can check out my website if you want this information. Second thing that we're going to talk about is renewing your state license. Now, your state license is required at all times. Remember, we talked about the NREMT being optional. After you pass it the first time, the state license is required at all times to do any kind of patient care. So after you get your EMT license for the first time, then you apply to get a state license. But you have to pass that NREMT first. I can't ever say that word. But you have to pass that first in order to be able to apply to get your state license. And every 2 years, you just have to keep renewing your state license. But there are some requirements. You have to do your continuing education, your CEUs. And basically, you have to just do 30 hours, like a 30-hour refresher, and that includes 2 hours of pediatric emergency care. And also, you have to make sure that you keep up with your CPR license at all times, and that you should keep up with it anyways if you have a job. So just make sure that's up to date, because they will require that when you renew your license. So if you work for an ambulance company, usually you get free CEUs and they keep you up to date with your license. And it's easier because, it's free. But if you work for a hospital, they usually don't provide any kind of CEUs that's related to EMT stuff. You do patient care tech CEUs, but you don't do any EMT CEUs. So you have to go out on your own and find a refresher course or continuing education online. And what I usually do is just do a refresher class online. It was like $89, and every time I renew, I just do this one course. It's like an 8-week course. Well, you have up to 8 weeks to get it done, but you can do it in like 2 weeks if you want. But I usually complete that course and just call it a day because I don't want to go around looking online for different CEUs. This class comes with everything. And if you want the information, you can always send me a message or something. I just don't like putting colleges and universities in my videos because I'm not really affiliated with them. So if you want, you can just send me a message and I'll give you that information. But you can check online and see where you can get CEUs and just get it done. Don't wait till the last minute because it takes time to process this stuff. And once your license expires on the 1st, most likely you can't work because at the hospital I won't be able to work if I don't have it up to date. And I know at my EMT job, I couldn't work unless it was up to date. So make sure you get it done and don't procrastinate. Alright guys, one thing that I do want to mention is to make sure that the organization that you're doing your CEUs with is approved by the Department of Health, because sometimes you'll be doing these CEUs with this organization only to find out that it's not accepted by the Department of Health. So always double check, give them a call, go on their website. They do have a list, so always double check. And I would advise you not to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on these CEUs. Really, to me, it's not worth it to do that. There are people out there that scam EMTs, and you don't want to get caught up in that. You can find a lot of classes online under $100. So just make sure that you're not signing up for these courses that's charging you an arm and a leg. And you can get the EMT refresher courses. Those are usually a little bit more expensive, but you do have classes out there where you can go in the classroom and they'll go over all the EMT basic stuff like the backboarding, the splinting, and all that fun stuff that you did in EMT school. I just want to show you guys a quick clip of what my online refresher course looks like. All I'm doing is just going over PowerPoints and taking a quiz afterwards. And once I'm done with this, I've completed all my requirements for my EMT recertification, and they send my scores to CE Broker, and CE Broker sends it to the Department of Health. So make sure that you find out if you have to self-report your scores or if the agency you're working with will do that for you. So that's it for this video. Now, before you go, I'm gonna just do a quick recap on how to become an EMT. Now, the first thing we talked about is renewing your NREMT certification, and this is optional for some and required for others. So it depends on the state that you live in or the agency that you work with. You just have to double check to make sure that it's not a requirement for you. As I said earlier, I didn't have to do it, so I didn't do it, but you may have to. So I'm going to leave the link below, and you can determine if that's a requirement for you. Secondly, you have to renew your state license. So this is not optional. This is something that you have to do in order to practice. Okay, so if you don't have it after December 1st, then you may not have a job, okay? And I want to point out my sister's pillows in the background. She makes she makes pillows and all these other stuff. She's an artist, you know, she thinks she's fancy. You can check her stuff out. I'm going to leave the link below. And you guys can go ahead and comment so other people can see it and it may help them. Or if you have any questions for me, if I missed anything, you can also comment. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in and intruding my living room. Okay, see you guys next week. Bye.
Every single day